It started like any other evening at home. I had been feeling sore after a long week of work and stress, and my cousin Sarah was visiting from out of town. She's always been someone I felt comfortable around, more like a close friend than extended family. We grew up playing together, spending summers under the same roof, and sharing secrets that most people wouldn't even tell their siblings. So when she noticed I was limping a little and offered to help ease the tension in my legs, I didn't think twice. I trusted her. We were sitting in the living room, watching a movie. The lights were dim, a soft glow from the lamp in the corner giving the room a calm, cozy feel. I laid back on the couch, stretching my legs across the cushions. Sarah sat near my feet, chatting casually as she started massaging. At first, it felt completely normal, just her being kind and caring like she always had been. I even smiled and thanked her for helping out. But as the minutes passed, something shifted. Not in the way she moved exactly, but in the silence that started to grow between us. The tone of her voice changed. Her hands slowed down, became more deliberate. There was a moment, just a few seconds, where our eyes met. It wasn't how you look at your cousin. It wasn't innocent. I remember feeling a knot form in my stomach, confused and unsure if I was imagining things. Was I reading too much into it? Or was there something unsaid hanging heavily in the air? I wanted to believe I was overthinking it. I wanted to chalk it up to tiredness, stress, or just awkward timing. But something in the way she stayed quiet, in the way her touch lingered a little too long in places, made it clear, this wasn't the same girl I used to play hide and seek with in the backyard. I shifted my legs slightly, hoping it would send a subtle signal. She paused, almost as if waiting for me to say something. But I couldn't find the words. My mind was racing, torn between shock, discomfort, and the fear of what this moment could mean. How did we go from childhood memories and harmless family visits to this strange, silent space filled with tension? Had something changed in her? Or had I missed the signs all along? Just as I was about to sit up and break the silence, she leaned in and whispered something so unexpected, so out of place, that it left me frozen. And that was the moment everything changed. I never expected that a simple act of kindness, a massage from someone I considered family, would open a door I didn't even know existed. What followed after that night would not only shake my trust but also force me to question the lines we draw between love, loyalty, and betrayal. But what exactly did she say? And what happened next? You won't believe how deep this story goes. I couldn't even process what Sarah had just whispered. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but the meaning behind her words hit me like a wave. I sat up slowly, trying to act casual, pretending I didn't fully hear what she said. But deep down, I knew I had. And once something is said, even in a whisper, it can't be taken back. I glanced at her, trying to read her face, searching for a sign that maybe it was a joke or I had misunderstood. But there was no smile, no laugh, just a steady, quiet look that told me she meant every word. My mind started spinning, trying to make sense of everything. We were cousins. We had a lifetime of shared history. She had always been someone I trusted blindly. How could something so small, just a few words, suddenly make everything feel unfamiliar? The room felt colder, or maybe it was just me pulling away inside. She shifted slightly, acting like nothing had happened, as if everything was still normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. My thoughts raced back to the last few days. Had there been other signs I ignored? Had I been too relaxed, too trusting just because of our family bond? We hadn't seen each other in a while before this visit. She'd gone through a rough breakup a few months back, and when she asked to come stay for a week, I didn't think twice. It was supposed to be a reset for her, some time to heal. We'd been spending evenings catching up, eating takeout, watching old movies, things that felt simple and safe. That's what made this so confusing. There had never been anything strange between us before. At least, I thought there hadn't. Now I couldn't help but overanalyze every little moment. The way she'd complimented me earlier that day, the way she lingered in conversations, the way she started to open up about how alone she'd been feeling. Maybe she was just being vulnerable, looking for support. Or maybe it was something more. I didn't say anything to her right then. I just stood up, said I was tired, and went to my room. But once the door was closed, I sat there in the dark, heart pounding, trying to figure out what I was really feeling. Confusion? Shock? Guilt? I wasn't sure. All I knew was that something had shifted between us, and there was no going back. The next morning was quiet, too quiet. I came out of my room pretending like nothing had happened, hoping that maybe Sarah would do the same. Maybe we could both just ignore it, move past it, chalk it up to a weird moment that didn't need to be brought up again. But deep inside, I knew things weren't that simple anymore. She was already in the kitchen, making coffee like everything was fine. She smiled at me the way she always did, like nothing strange had happened between us. But I could feel it, that under the surface awkwardness. It was there in the way we avoided eye contact, in the little silences between casual words. Every moment felt slightly off, like we were both pretending to be in a version of reality that no longer existed. As I sipped my coffee and tried to focus on small talk, 100 thoughts were running through my head. I started questioning myself. Had I somehow given the wrong impression? Did I do something that made her think this kind of boundary could be crossed? The guilt crept in even though I hadn't done anything. But then again, wasn't staying silent also a form of response? Later that day, I called my friend Jason. I didn't tell him everything, just that Sarah was acting different and it was making me uncomfortable. He joked about cousins being weird sometimes, not realizing how serious the situation felt. That's when I realized I couldn't talk to anyone about this, not fully. Who would understand? And more importantly, who could I trust? Meanwhile, Sarah seemed even more comfortable than before. She started getting a little too involved in my routine, asking to help with laundry, joining me during my work breaks, even suggesting we go out for dinner just the two of us. It felt like she was trying to create a closeness that went beyond family. And I didn't know how to stop it without causing a scene or making things worse. One evening, while we were cleaning up after dinner, she brought up the past. She talked about how close we used to be as kids, how she always felt I understood her better than anyone else. Her voice was soft, a little too warm. That's when I realized, this wasn't just confusion or a mistake. This was intentional. She knew exactly what she was doing. And I still hadn't figured out how to deal with it. I kept trying to convince myself it would pass, that maybe this was just a phase she was going through after her breakup. Maybe she just needed attention, emotional support, someone to lean on. But the longer she stayed, the more intense her behavior became. And no matter how much I tried to ignore it, the signals were getting louder. She started leaving her bedroom door open when she changed, casually walking into my room late at night to talk about things that didn't need to be said at that hour. The casual leg massages turned into routine evening habits, and each time, I felt more trapped. I couldn't bring myself to say something direct. I didn't want to embarrass her, or worse, cause tension in the family. But my silence was turning into permission. And that thought terrified me. One evening, after a quiet dinner at home, she asked if we could talk. Her tone was serious, not playful like before. We sat in the living room, lights low, the same room where it had all started. I could feel something coming, something I wasn't ready for. My heart was pounding, and I tried to keep my expression neutral, even though everything in me was bracing for whatever she was about to say. She began slowly, talking about how alone she'd felt lately, how everyone she loved either left her or never really understood her. Then she looked me in the eye and said I made her feel safe. That I was different. That I always had been. I could feel the words tightening around me like a rope, pulling me into something I never asked for. Her eyes didn't look away this time. They were steady, expectant, like she was waiting for me to say the same thing back. I didn't know what to do. The line had been crossed a while ago, but now she was standing firmly on the other side, waiting for me to join her. I felt cornered emotionally, mentally. Every part of me screamed that this was wrong, but I couldn't find the words to stop it without breaking everything around me. The weight of the situation was too real now. Then, she reached out and gently touched my hand. Her voice was calm, almost whispering again. I know this is confusing, but I need to tell you something. Something I've kept inside for a long time, and in that moment, I knew everything was about to come crashing down. I froze as she held my hand, her eyes locked onto mine like she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in her head. I could feel the tension rising in my chest, every second stretching longer than the last. Then, finally, she spoke. I've been in love with you for years, she said quietly, her thumb brushing over my knuckles. I tried to forget it. I tried to move on, to date others, to be normal. But I always end up back here, thinking about you. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to pull away, to say something, anything, but I just sat there, stunned. It wasn't just confusion anymore. It was real. She had crossed a line not only emotionally, but now openly. And I had no idea how to undo it. This wasn't just a misunderstanding or a temporary emotional lapse. This was a deep, twisted truth she had kept buried all these years. Just as I started to respond, the doorbell rang. The timing couldn't have been more surreal. It startled both of us. She quickly pulled her hand back, and I stood up like I'd been given an escape rope. I walked to the door, trying to gather myself, still feeling the echo of her words in my head. When I opened it, I wasn't expecting to see my ex, Emily, standing there. She looked nervous, holding a small bag and fidgeting with her keys. Hey, she said, forcing a smile. I know this is random, but I was driving through the area and thought maybe we could talk. It had been months since Emily and I broke up. Things ended on shaky terms, but we hadn't really had closure. And now, out of all nights, she showed up right as my cousin had just confessed something that shook the ground beneath me. Sarah stood in the hallway behind me, just far enough to be seen. Her face changed when she realized who was at the door. Her jaw tensed, her eyes narrowed, but she didn't say a word. Emily noticed her too, and I could see the questions forming in her eyes. She gave me a look, half curious, half suspicious, but didn't ask anything yet. I won't stay long, Emily said. I've been thinking about things, and I felt like I needed to see you. I nodded slowly, stepping aside to let her in, though my mind was still spinning. Now two women, each carrying unresolved history and unspoken emotions, were standing under the same roof. One knew too much, the other didn't know enough. And I was caught in the middle of something I couldn't control anymore. As the three of us sat down, the air in the room grew thick with silence. Sarah crossed her arms, guarded. Emily glanced between us, sensing the unease. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a strange moment between cousins anymore. It had become something much bigger, much messier, and something I could no longer keep hidden. The silence in the room was louder than any argument could have been. Emily sat on the far side of the couch, fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve, eyes flicking back and forth between me and Sarah. Sarah, meanwhile, sat stiff and still, her expression calm but unreadable, like she was bracing for something. And I felt like I was sitting in the middle of a storm I didn't know how to stop. Finally, Emily broke the silence. So, are you two living together now? Her voice was light, but the question was loaded. Before I could answer, Sarah spoke. I'm just visiting. We're family, she said, her tone flat. The word family felt heavier than it should have. Emily raised an eyebrow. Right. I looked between them, my throat dry. Look, this isn't really a good time, I said. Maybe we can talk later. But Emily wasn't letting it go. Is there something going on here that I should know about? Sarah leaned forward slightly. There's a lot you don't know, Emily. Maybe you should have stayed a little longer before walking out the first time. That hit a nerve. Emily's expression hardened. Oh, I see. So this is what you've been doing since we broke up, comforting each other? I stood up, hands raised. That's not what this is. This whole situation just got complicated. I didn't expect any of this. Emily stared at me for a long moment, then at Sarah, and something clicked in her eyes. Wait. You like him, don't you? She said to Sarah. Sarah didn't flinch. I'm not going to lie to you. I've had feelings for him for a long time. I never said anything before because I knew it was wrong. But now that it's out, I'm not hiding it. My heart was racing. I couldn't believe this was actually happening, this mess unfolding right in front of me. I turned to Sarah. You should have told me this years ago, or not at all. You've put me in a terrible position. But Sarah's expression suddenly changed. No, you don't understand. There's something else, she said. Her voice dropped. That breakup between you and Emily? It wasn't just about trust issues. You thought she left you because of the stress. But she came to me before she left. Emily's eyes widened. Sarah, what are you doing? She asked me if I had feelings for you, Sarah said quietly. And I told her the truth. That I did. That maybe you did too, even if you didn't realize it. That's why she walked away. I turned to Emily, stunned. Is that true? Emily looked away, ashamed. I was scared. I saw the way she looked at you. I didn't want to fight for someone who wasn't sure. Everything hit me at once, the past, the silence, the distance. All of it. It wasn't just Sarah's secret. It was a triangle built on things unsaid. And just when I thought it couldn't get more complicated, my phone buzzed. A message. From my uncle. We need to talk. It's about Sarah. Urgent. The moment I saw my uncle's message, a new kind of weight settled over me. My hands were still shaking from everything that had just come out in the room, but now this? I stepped outside onto the porch to call him, heart pounding, not knowing what I was about to hear. He picked up immediately. His voice was low, serious. I should have said something sooner, but I didn't think it would ever come to this. Sarah's been through more than you know. After her breakup, she started seeing a therapist, and there were some unhealthy attachments forming. She mentioned your name more than once. It concerned her doctor. We were told to keep an eye on things, but I didn't think she'd act on any of it. I leaned against the railing, stunned. So this had been building for a while, below the surface, quietly growing. My uncle's voice was heavy with guilt. She was supposed to get help, take time away from things that triggered her. I had no idea she planned to visit you until she was already there. I thanked him and ended the call, the pieces falling into place. It didn't excuse her actions, but it helped me understand that this wasn't just about emotion or secrecy, it was deeper, tangled in things even she might not fully grasp. I went back inside and sat down across from both Sarah and Emily, feeling like the air had changed once again. I just talked to your dad, I said softly. Sarah's face paled a little, but she didn't look away. I continued, you need real support, Sarah. Not this, whatever this has become. This situation isn't fair to you, or to me, or to anyone. She nodded slowly. For the first time, her expression broke. Not defensive, not bold, just sad. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I know, I said. But it did. Emily stood up. I should go, she said, and I walked her to the door. Before she left, she looked at me one last time. You didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this. But maybe now, you'll finally figure out what you really want. She was right. This whole experience, what started as a simple visit, a leg massage, a strange moment that spiraled, had forced me to look deeper into myself, into the boundaries I keep, the silence I allow, and the truths I avoid. In the end, Sarah went back home a few days later, this time under the care of her family and professionals who could guide her toward healing. Emily and I stayed in touch, not as a couple, but as people who once shared something real. Maybe that was enough. And as for me, I learned that the lines between love, loyalty, and family are more fragile than we think. One moment, one misunderstanding, can change everything. But with honesty and the courage to face uncomfortable truths, even the most tangled situations can find peace. Sometimes, healing begins not when things stay the same, but when everything falls apart. 21.